I was in my regular booth at the brunch place, where we always went on weekends. My coffee was cold, but I just kept swirling it around, a nervous thing I do to keep it together. Nobody really noticed me because, of course, everyone was focused on my sister Vivian. She sat there with her legs crossed, the sunlight making her engagement ring sparkle. "So, your old job was super boring," she said, laughing loud enough to fill the whole place. It's kind of funny that someone in their 30s still doesn't have a real job. I heard every single word, every little pause. No one else even cracked a smile. Just Vivian, loving her own joke. I didn't look at her. I just squeezed my lips together and kept stirring that gross, cold coffee. My mom awkwardly mumbled, "Vivian, don't." But my sister just shrugged. Silence in her book was a total sign of defeat. Dad tried to change the subject, something about the eggs Benedict being too salty, but Vivian's smirk just hung there, like she was waiting for a reaction. I didn't say anything. I was never the chatty one at those things, and I think they figured I just had nothing to say. But honestly, since I started living more privately, silence became this space where I built my own entire world, a place they wouldn't understand. I remember the exact moment I realized that some of the most awesome stuff doesn't need to be shown off. At 27, I was side by side with Sam, my college buddy, plugging away at the initial code for a smart data analysis system that would end up being used by banks, hospitals, and even the government. Now at 33, I'm a co-founder of Dataloom, this tech company worth over 80 million bucks. But my family, they have no clue that I wasn't ever on the official website. In all the interviews, Sam was the company's front person and me. I stayed out of the public eye. My name was just on the inside stuff, the paperwork, the investor deals, Vivian's paycheck. Isn't that wild? My sister, the one who always made fun of how quiet I was, is now applying to the company I helped create, completely clueless that the person looking over her application is the very one she used to make fun of. I just listened to her, yapping away, bragging about this accounting firm she worked for that went bust. But whatever, she brushed it off. "I'm a problem solver," she said. "I'm going after a new company, something called Dataloom." Heard they're hiring? My heart did a little flip then. I glanced up, then quickly looked back down, trying to hide the little spark in my eyes. She kept talking. "I already applied. If they hire me, I'll manage their finances better than anyone there. If they don't, it's their loss." I almost burst out laughing. That sentence, so cocky and full of herself, was exactly what she used to say to me, that I'd never get anywhere hiding in the shadows. She'll probably never get it, but I practically created a whole world in that same space. And now, she's about to step right into it with me at the helm. But I didn't say anything, not because I was scared, but because I knew the truth would eventually come out. I can still picture my 12th birthday. Everyone was singing "Happy Birthday," and then Vivian practically exploded back into the room, holding up this huge gold trophy. Our little sister had just won the state dance competition. Mom was just beaming, hugging Vivian tight. I was standing next to my cake, those stupid candles flickering in front of me. Nobody even bothered to ask what I wanted, and I didn't even bother to blow them out. That was Vivian, always like that. So full of life, always making everyone cheer. I quietly grabbed my presents, went to my room, and booted up the old laptop Dad gave me the year before, and just kept on working on my very first data model. Even when I was a kid, I was into stuff that everyone else thought was boring. I liked taking toys apart to see how they worked. I was fascinated by why a video game ran so smoothly. I loved the feeling of writing a piece of code and seeing it run perfectly. Mom used to say, "A leaner could just sit for hours and you wouldn't hear a peep." Dad used to joke, "We've got a firework and a flashlight in this house." You didn't need to guess which was which. Vivian was the firework, I was the flashlight, steady but always in the background. As we got older, the distance between us grew. Vivian studied art and got some local TV gigs, all thanks to her dramatic flair. I went to some tech school, to learn about computers. Honestly, nobody in my family can even remember the name of the place. And when I actually finished, they completely forgot the day it happened. They were all caught up in getting Vivian's fashion line off the ground. I can't fault them, really. I sometimes wondered if I just wasn't, interesting enough. But in that quiet space, I eventually figured out what mattered to me. When Sam and I started Dataloom, we had next to nothing, just two broken down laptops, and this crazy idea for a system that could analyze data and predict what people would do, right when they were doing it. Sam was the front man. He was the one who talked to investors, did all the interviews, and ran the show. I was the one in the background, writing every single piece of code and fixing every single problem. A year later, this huge bank gave us a chance and signed up for a test run. 2 years in, our system was being used in finance, healthcare, and risk analysis stuff. By year 3, Dataloom was worth $83 million. I own nearly half the company, but if you asked anyone, they'd only know Sam Fletcher. A leaner green, never made a headline, and that was exactly how I liked it. I didn't need fake smiles, blinding cameras, or people talking behind my back. I just wanted to build something, to create something that could help people make better choices. As for Vivian, well, her fashion startup didn't go so well. It all fell apart because of money problems, and she went back to accounting at a little company. Then she got laid off. Now, she's betting everything on this new opportunity, and she doesn't even realize I'm the one who made it possible. I don't know if she'll ever see me as anything other than someone beneath her. I'll always be that girl, the little sister who is always lost in her own world with a bunch of clunky old computers. But she's about to step into a place I built. Every wall, every cheap computer, every single analytical tool, all me. And honestly, what I'm dying to know is this. When she sees my name, Eleanor Green, at the bottom of her paycheck or on that budget draft, will she even get it? Or is she still going to think of me as some background character in her amazing life? Part of me hopes she never figures it out, but another part. I can't wait to see her face when the truth finally clicks. I don't need her to think I'm great, I just want her to stop looking down on me. That night, back in my little apartment on the 18th floor, the Seattle sky was soft and misty, like a velvet curtain after a play. I opened up my laptop and logged into Dataloom's system. Thousands of lines of code and reports I knew better than my own name. The first notification popped up from HR. Candidate recommended, Vivian Green. I leaned back in my chair and my eyes landed on the file. I'd been expecting this, but still, my heart skipped a beat. Her picture, smiling in a beige blazer, was right there on the application. I quickly went through her experience, her skills, and the note from the person reviewing her application. Confident. Great at talking to people. Good fit for the budget analyst job. Recommended for the next round. I didn't type a thing, just clicked the 3 little dots in the corner. A window popped up. Forward code cop prom. I hit approve. She got the job. Nobody at the company, except for Sam, knew I was there from the start. We'd agreed to only use Sam's name when it came to the public stuff. I didn't want my face plastered all over the internet. I'd watched too many people mess up their lives trying to get famous. I didn't crave the spotlight. I craved freedom. So inside Dataloom, I was just a leaner, the senior technical advisor, and I usually worked from home. I'd only pop into the office once a week after 6. The rest of the time, I was running projects, signing off on the money, and planning our next moves, all behind the scenes. Sam was the one on camera, glad-handing investors, and doing the talks at tech events. He always respected my decision, never once spilling the beans about who I was to the employees or the media. I used to question if I'd made the right call. But now, seeing Vivian join the company I helped build, I knew for sure that staying quiet was what made this moment special. On her first day, I stayed put, just like I usually did. But I turned on the internal cameras. It was something very few people knew I'd designed, and I set it up with a low angle in the communal kitchen on the 9th floor. I watched her, standing by the espresso machine, her eyes wide, checking out the digital bulletin board with all the current projects. "This is the new company that hired me," she told a coworker, all proud. "Rumor has it the 2 founders are super private. Nobody's ever seen the other one, they might just be a name on paper." A soft laugh escaped me. It wasn't unusual for someone to wonder if the other co-founder was even real. That day, Sam video phoned me. "She's doing all right so far," he said, taking a sip of his coffee. "Pretty sure of herself, maybe a little flashy, but capable. Are you really sure about this? She still doesn't know who you are, Eleanor." "For now, let's keep it that way," I told him. "Just don't mess up. If she's any good, this is a huge chance. If she's not, well, the truth will come out sooner." It wasn't about getting even. I wasn't hoping she'd mess up, and I didn't want to get back at her. I just wanted to see how Vivian would act when no one knew who she was, when there were no cameras, no cheering crowds. A week went by, then 2. Each time I showed up at the office after closing, she was already gone. I kept doing my thing, signing off on budgets late at night, looking through HR files in the quiet, empty halls with the elevators still. Then one evening, I was in the basement server room, checking on the security stuff when I heard the click-clack of high heels in the hallway. I poked my head out, and there she was, completely still in the doorway. Eleanor. She asked, surprised and suspicious. I just nodded, calm as could be. Hey, she narrowed her eyes. What are you doing down here? Only the big shots are allowed in this area. I grinned. Well, I guess I have special permission. She was about to say something else when Sam walked out of the room next door holding a file. Hey, Eleanor, could you check out the new AI deployment plan? It needs your signature by Friday. I grabbed the file, then glanced back at Vivian. Her eyes just locked. We didn't need to say anything. Right then, I knew I'd planted that seed of doubt. And now the waiting game began. Would she finally see me for who I really am? Or would she keep seeing just the harmless ghost she always thought I was? It was a misty Seattle morning. I'd just finished signing off on the quarterly report when my phone blew up. It was Sam. Something crazy happened, he said, all excited. I think Vivian's getting suspicious. I looked up and bam, a new email from accounting. The subject line, NS signature found in internal budget file, please confirm approving authority. My heart nearly stopped. It was happening. It had been almost 2 months since Vivian started at Dataloom as a budget analyst. In that short time, she'd become a real favorite in a few departments. She was so confident and persuasive. I'd been watching her, quietly okaying her proposals, keeping my mouth shut. But she'd started to notice things. She'd found a file during a marketing budget review in e-signature, clearly labeled Eleanor Green NS. And there was the co-founder's ID number right next to it. I knew she wouldn't drop it. The next day, I overheard something downstairs in the cafe. A younger coworker was asking Vivian, all hushed, who's this NS person? They're like a ghost. Never seen them, but they sign off on everything major. Vivian just smirked. Probably just some legal person, she said. I've always been wary of names without faces. I was hiding behind a wooden divider, clutching my coffee cup. I figured she'd figure it out eventually, right? 3 days later, she strolled right into accounting and asked for the full budget record for the last quarter. Because she had the clearance, she started pulling up file after file until she found the one where my name was all over the place. It was on documents that explained Dataloom's financial heart. Not just signatures, but dates, file numbers, legal stuff. Every important thing had my name on it. My own sister, who thought I was basically freeloading off the family, was looking at proof that I wasn't just some regular employee. I was the one who approved her paycheck. The one behind all the reports she used every single day. That afternoon, I got a system alert, an internal access request from account Vivian Green regarding Dartag Dataloom founding records. She was in the master file. I imagined her sitting there, her face lit up by the soft blue glow of the screen, seeing the founding documents for the first time. Eleanor Green and Samuel Fletcher, 50-50 ownership, chief technical architect. Ms. Green, I bet her stomach just dropped. I know her. When she's shocked, she doesn't yell or make a fuss. She goes quiet, but her eyes just burn. Then she tries to prove it's not real. That same afternoon, I got to the office earlier than I usually do. I just had to see her reaction for myself. So there I was in the pantry and there's Vivian, all alone. She's grabbing onto the counter, staring at some paper, totally spaced out. I went over to her real quiet like. You all right? I asked. She whipped around, her eyes were all crazy, like a mix of anger and total confusion. Eleanor, she said, her voice all tight and strained, you're the co-founder. I didn't say anything right away, just gave a little nod. How long? She asked, like she couldn't believe it. From the very start, I told her, keeping calm. Sam and I, we started this whole thing in this tiny room near Capitol Hill, back when you thought I was just sitting around doing nothing. She kinda laughed then, not in a mean way, but more like a bitter, self-deprecating laugh. It was like half disbelief, half a joke at her own expense. So all this time you were signing my checks, she said. I worked for you, I nodded again, but it wasn't out of pride, It was just, hey, I was doing my job, Vivian. You're good at what you do, that's why I promoted you. If you weren't, I wouldn't have. She just went quiet, looking down at the floor. I pulled out a sheet of paper, a budget plan for a new program, tech education for kids who need it most. We're starting this up soon, you might like it, I said. I think you'd be perfect for it. She didn't take the paper, but something in her eyes changed, like something clicked. I turned to leave. I didn't push her, she needed some time to process. But for the first time in ages, I saw something different in her eyes, not that old contempt, but a real question hanging in the air. Man, how many times have I gotten my little sister completely wrong? 5 years of Dataloom, and the anniversary gala was in this fancy glass building by Lake Union. The lights from the chandeliers were bouncing off the floor like little waves. I was in the dressing room, staring in the mirror, just taking it all in. The simple, classy black dress clung to me, a dress for someone who'd been running on fumes for ages. My hair was all prim and proper, and my lips had a touch of pink. I didn't want to be noticed, but that whole wanting thing was out the window now. Sam poked his head in, knocking lightly. "Ready, Eleanor?" I gulped. "Not really." "But I figured you're never really ready to leave the shadows, are you?" He chuckled. "You're not leaving, you're leveling up." We strolled onto the stage from the side as the lights went down. The MC had just wrapped up. "And now, please welcome the co-founders of Dataloom, Samuel Fletcher and Eleanor Green." The applause was deafening, so loud and full of energy. Every single person in the room was looking at me as I walked into the light officially, without having to hide anymore. I gave a small but meaningful smile. Then I saw Vivian. She was in the back, holding a champagne glass, completely frozen. Her world had just been rocked. I understood that. I'd been there when we got our first $1 million investment, when something that seemed impossible suddenly became real. Sam started off. He told the story of how we went from his mom's garage to Dataloom's fancy headquarters, the late nights, the server crashes, and the times we'd collapsed from exhaustion right on our keyboards. When he handed me the mic, it got quiet. I took a big breath. "Hi, everyone, I'm Eleanor Green, and I guess for a lot of you, this is the first time you've actually seen me." A soft ripple of chuckles floated through the room. They weren't mean or anything, it was friendly. Shocked, I kept going. "Public speaking isn't my strong suit, and I never pictured myself on a stage like this. But 5 years ago, Sam and I had two things going for us. A crazy idea, and we really believed that technology could be based on trust." I looked down at the people in front of me. Vivian was still there, but her drink was gone. Her eyes were glued to me, like she was trying to figure out who this person was that looked like someone she used to know. "I know I'm not the usual face of this company," I added, "and that was completely my doing. But today, I felt like I had to be here. Not for any kind of glory, but because I was thankful." The clapping started up again. I nodded, thanked them, and then stepped back to let the host wrap things up. When the lights changed for dinner, I headed towards the food, hoping to find a quiet spot. But with every few steps, someone would stop me to say hi. "We thought you were a myth," one of the coders said with a laugh. "Didn't think you were real." I smiled, said a few friendly things, but my thoughts kept going back to Vivian. I glanced towards the pillar where she had been. She was gone, and I didn't know when she slipped away or how much of my speech she had heard. But I felt something, an empty spot inside me, where a warm look from someone I cared about should have been. That night, back in my apartment, I took off my shoes and just crashed onto the couch. My phone blew up tons of congrats from work, business partners, even mom and dad. "So proud of you, sweetie," they all said, but nothing from Vivian. I watched the company's video of the event again, fast-forwarded to my speech, then stopped it. I didn't need to see it again. All I wanted to know was what Vivian thought she saw up there. Did she see some stranger? Or did she see that little sister she always figured would never amount to anything? 2 days later, I got to the office super early. It wasn't for a meeting or paperwork, I just needed to finish something personal. I went to the 10th floor conference room, opened a drawer, and got out this little walnut box I'd had since college. Inside, I put a notebook, navy linen cover, a black pen, and a handwritten note. It took forever to write, just a few lines. Nothing fancy, no poetry, just the truth. "Vivian, thanks for all your hard work at Dataloom. You're really good at what you do, and I think you're gonna go places. I'm proud to work with you, even though we started off not talking much. Signed, Eleanor." I folded the note, put it in the notebook, and gave it to the delivery person quietly. "Please give this to Vivian Green, no name on it." I wasn't expecting a response. It wasn't a peace offering or anything. It was just opening a door quietly, without any pressure, in case she wanted to walk through it. The rest of the week went by, and I didn't hear a peep, no message, no email, nothing. So I started noticing things. Vivian wasn't sitting there with her arms crossed during meetings anymore. She was actually taking notes, asking really smart questions, and contributing some solid ideas. One day, I was outside her meeting room, and I heard her pitching a new budget for this AI project that had blown way past its original cost. Her voice was super calm, and she was clear as a bell. And her eyes, no more of that cutthroat look. It was something way different, like intense focus. I didn't go in. I just stood there, hands in my pockets, just nodding to myself. The next week, HR announced Vivian had suggested this whole new mentorship program for newer employees, especially women in tech. She wanted to use some of the corporate social responsibility money to pay for free career workshops run by department managers. I read her proposal 3 times, real slow. The name of the program was Touch the Screen, Touch the Future. And underneath it said, Inspired by the quiet mission of a leaner green. I put the papers down, kinda bit my lip. Later that day, I stopped by the break room. Vivian was there making tea. When she saw me, we both froze for a second, but this time her eyes were different. No tension, no walls up. I was about to walk past when she said something. The pen and notebook are beautiful, she said. I've already filled a few pages. I looked at her. I'm glad you liked them, I said. She just nodded a little. I don't think I ever really understood you, she said. Or maybe I just never tried. I just grinned, not saying anything. There's something I need to tell you, she went on, her voice softer now. You didn't have to give me a shot, but you did, and you never threw it in my face. You didn't try to make me look bad just to make yourself look good. That says a lot about you. For the first time ever, I didn't see Vivian as that high school kid, all smiles with a prize in her hand. I saw a woman, working on letting go of that ego, learning to really see people. I don't know if I can fix it, she said, really slow. But I'll try. I just nodded, and it felt like a ton of bricks had been lifted off my shoulders. We didn't have to go over everything that had happened. We could just start fresh. We just stood there together for a minute, side by side. No explaining needed, no apologies necessary, just this quiet understanding. This time, it was going to be different, and somehow it was. Vivian stopped being the center of attention. She started listening, making room for others, and didn't act like any job was beneath her, and I stopped hiding behind my computer screen. I started presenting at technical talks, and I didn't try to avoid the camera anymore. I stood in front of visiting students and told them my story, not to brag, but to show them that you don't have to be the loudest to make a difference. One weekend afternoon, I was leaving the office, and I saw Vivian standing in front of the recognition wall, the list of the top people for that quarter. Her name was right at the top. She looked at me and gave me a little nod. Thank you for not giving up on me. I smiled. Vivian, we're just getting started, you know. It was Sunday, and the whole crew was at our regular brunch place, right there by Green Lake. It was all familiar, the dark wood chairs, the sun coming through those striped curtains, and the smell of waffles everywhere. But something felt off. I was on the balcony, at the long table with Mom and Dad, Uncle Henry, Aunt Laura, and Vivian. She strolled in 5 minutes late, but instead of her usual loud clothes and sparkly heels, she had a simple white blouse, dark jeans, her hair pulled back, and no makeup. When she got close to me, her eyes flickered, but then she gave a little nod. I nodded back. We didn't need to say anything, just a look. That was enough. Mom was going on about her new flower bed when Uncle Henry suddenly laughed and turned to me. So, Eleanor, he said, still doing that little freelance thing from home or just typing up random computer codes all day? I smiled, not shocked that he still thought programming was just a fancy video game. Before I could even say a word, a voice cut through. Actually, Uncle, Vivian said, putting down her coffee and staring straight ahead, Eleanor is the smartest person I've ever met, and I wouldn't be where I am today without her. Everyone stared at her. I tilted my head a little, but Vivian didn't back down, like she usually did when everyone was looking at her. She stood her ground, her eyes locked, her voice clear. I used to think I was all-knowing, you know. But Eleanor, she showed me something way bigger than just facts and figures. She taught me humility. It's not that she's quiet because she's got nothing to say, it's that she just does things instead of making a big deal about it. Uncle Henry looked like he'd seen a ghost. Aunt Laura just gave this tiny little nod. Mom squeezed my hand, real gentle. I didn't say a word, just stared at her. And in that look, everything was there. More than words could ever say, a silent apology, thanks I couldn't put into words, and respect I earned because of who she is, not because we're related. Then, bam, everyone started chatting about the weather and Christmas again. But I knew something huge had just happened. After everyone was leaving, I went to grab my purse. Vivian came up, her coat in her hand. She didn't say anything, but as she walked past, she whispered, "You don't have to forgive me, but I'm a different person now." I turned to her, and for the first time in ages, I gave her a real smile. "I know," I said, "and I never needed an apology." We walked out, no words between us, but the tension, gone. What happened? Yeah, I still remember it, but it didn't feel like a raw wound anymore. Later that day, I got home, made some tea, opened my laptop, and just stared out at Lake Union. As I sipped that warm tea, a message from Sam popped up. I texted back, heard brunch was pretty good today, and he replied, not bad. Okay, so I'm calling this a fresh start. Sometimes, forgiveness isn't about saying sorry. It's about really seeing each other, finally. Not judging, but just getting it, Vivian and I. We'll never be those perfect sisters in a magazine, but we're not enemies anymore. We're just two women who messed up, learned from it, and moved on. And to me, that's a pretty amazing ending to one part of our lives and a really good beginning to the next. What happened with Vivian showed me that understanding doesn't always come with a big apology. Sometimes it's just quiet, real change. It took me forever to realize that it's not all about people noticing you. But once the truth comes out, you don't even need to argue. Silence can say a lot. Life isn't about being perfect. It's about having the guts to change and the kindness to try again. What do you think about Alina and Vivian? About whether late understanding can fix something that felt totally broken? I'd love to hear your thoughts.